welcome to URP Practical Talk. I'm your host, Pastor Wendell Jeffrey. Namaste, Salaam Alaikum, Christian greetings, and thanks for spending time with me. Dr. Vishnu Bandhu, the lead of the URP, is here in the studio. Also in the studio with me this evening is Carlos Van Rossum, and you will hear more from the gentlemen. Let's go right into our segment, Talking Practically. So we have oil, lots of oil. And I've been reading about countries that have oil. Do you know that there are many countries that have oil just like Guyana? And do you know that one of the things that happened to those countries, to the people in those countries that have oil like Guyana, many times those people remain poor and grossly impoverished. It's called the resource curse, or the paradox of plenty. Oil in a country does not make the country rich. In fact, it could make just a few people in the country rich. And what oil guarantees is that the finder of the oil, some corrupt politicians and some interest groups, they benefit from the oil. So because we have oil in Guyana, it doesn't mean that we can expect anything different here in Guyana. And before you say that I'm a pessimistic, gloom and doom preacher, let me hurry on to make and prove my point. For years, Guyana has found gold, oil, bauxite, rice, sugar, timber. And for 50 long years, we have sold billions of dollars in rice, billions of dollars in sugar, billions of dollars in timber and gold. Billions. But tell me, what have you personally gotten? How can you personally prove you have gotten anything from the billions of dollars in sales and natural resources? And I'm not asking the politicians to answer, because we know how the politicians have benefited. What I'm asking, and who I'm asking, is the average man in the street, the average woman or man. How have you benefited? Have you benefited from the sale of our natural resources over these years that amount to hundreds of billions of dollars? Do you personally have anything substantial to prove that Guyana is the richest country in the Caribbean? So what makes you think that now that we have oil, things will be different? If in 50 years our politicians have failed to properly manage all our natural resources, rice, gold, bauxite, timber, sugar, hydro, what makes you think that they could manage oil? My friend, our problem is not our natural resources. You and I both know that in the Caribbean, Guyana has the greatest landmass. In our possession is the largest residue of natural resources within the Caribbean combined. We are indeed the wealthiest of all the CARICOM neighbors that we have, by far, undisputed. So our problem is not our mineral wealth. Our problem is governance. Our problem is our politics, the kind of politics that we have. The problem is that for the last 50 years, we have had failed governance. Collectively, our politicians have squandered our mineral resources. And for all that we have sold, and for all that we still have, we are still the sickest, weakest, poorest, most backward country in the Caribbean. Imagine that. And what is sad to say, and I'm sad to say it, is that oil will not change that. If you continue to vote party loyalty, and if you continue to vote race, the politicians will capitalize on this, and they will continue to sell out our country from right under your nose. If you continue to vote race, and if you continue to vote political loyalty, you will give the politicians the vehicle they need to further corrupt themselves and impoverish this country. Statistically speaking, oil in the nation does not necessarily make the country better. In fact, it could make politicians worse. Oil in a country could make worse democracies. So what I'm saying, and what I will continue to say, is that this two-party winner-take-all approach to governance, which has failed Guyana, cannot now be used to better Guyana? What we need is a third party to hold the balance of power in government and keep these career politicians in check and to keep them transparent and honest. A third party is the only administrative arrangement that would make sure that the billions of dollars we get in oil money is not squandered like the billions of dollars in all our other natural resources, rice, sugar, bauxite, timber, and the set. If you leave these two parties together, these two major parties system in place, it's not going to help. If you leave these two political parties by themselves to manage Guyana, you will get over the next 50 years exactly what you've gotten over the last 50 years. You're going to get bad governance. And even if you add oil to the equation, it's only going to complicate stuff. And if you get over the next 50 years what you had over the last 50 years, your children and your grandchildren will never forgive you. And that's practically talking. Thank you very much. Let me welcome to the studio my man, my buddy, Carlos. Thank you for coming, Carlos. Yes. And of course, our resident doctor himself, Dr. Vishnu Bandhu, the leader of the URP party. Gentlemen, thanks for joining this evening. Dr. Bandhu, we ran out of time last week, and you were getting all excited when we spoke about the cost of electricity and the direct correlation that it has to the upward mobility of Guyana. Talk a little about that.
Well, what I was talking about last week, and we get cut off, we are going to talk about the electricity that we are having in Guyana, where the government put the next tax again on the electricity.
Yes.
Guyana here, we are paying $51. $51 per kilowatt electricity.
Okay.
In the United States, the most expensive city, which is New York,
okay,
is paying 8 cents per kilowatt for electricity.
8 US cents.
We paying about 16 to 17 Guyana dollars.
Wow, we paying 51.
And we are paying $51. Now we add VAT on that now.
Wow.
So where would we go? Now, how can you encourage businesses to survive in Guyana, especially manufacturing companies?
The cost.
Because electricity is one of the most important things in any business.
Correct.
Right?
So what do you see as the solution to the problem, Doc?
I see the solution is that we should re-examine back the hydro fall that where the past administration was looking into. We should re-examine that, go back to hydro, because hydro brings cheap electricity and regular electricity. Today we are having so much we have to pay for electricity, and we are having blackout constantly in Guyana. Okay. So how would we move forward? Now, everything that what we produce in Guyana is far more expensive than what we can buy the same thing from overseas.
Cheaper.
And come here and sell cheaper than what we produce.
Yeah, because we've been importing planting chip and tamarind
yeah.
balls. And
so, because of our electrical things and so forth.
But there was a problem with, the folks were saying that the Myla Falls project was overpriced. So how do we deal with that? Do we have to re-examine the cost? Do we have to come back to the drawing board with it, or should they look for another fall to use? What was your take on it?
But if we spend billions of dollars in Amelia's falls, we should re-examine it, not go and try to push a next fall.
Okay.
See if it is feasible for Guyana. If the Amelia Fall is feasible, then let us use the Amelia Fall. You see, one of our problems we have with these two political parties when they are in government, if one of them starts a project and the other one comes in government, they throw cold water on that project. The PPP started that project, so this government will throw cold water in. Anything that the PNC start, the PPP will throw cold water. And this is how it goes down
And
the line.
and that is why I'm saying, Doc, that unless you have a third party that can look at these concepts, whether they're proposed by the coalition or the PNC or whether they're proposed by the PPP, you have some third party in there that would speak common sense to the issues in the interest of Guyana.
Definitely.
I'm going to come back to you, Doc. I got my man here himself, Carlos van Rossum, a Dutchman, a man of the streets.
Yes.
How are you doing, Carlos?
Well,
Man?
I'm fine, boss. I'm fine. What about you?
I'm good. Carlos, you never really got involved too deeply in politics. You've always stayed on the outside, you've looked around and so on. What has brought you to this point at this age, after you've done so much, after you've been through so much? What has brought you to come sit with the URP party and pledge your support? What's happening in your head?
Well, I have about 9 sons, but 5 of them is very young.
Okay.
And I was very happy when the last campaign, and we were saying that the better life for the youths.
Okay. The
I was
slogan,
happy
a
for
better life for the youth. And that catch you.
And that catch me, because I wanted a better life for the youths.
Okay.
So I decided to go along with it.
Okay.
I wake up very early and I took the youths and I said, look, let's.
How many of your children you took to the polling station? I like that story.
Yes,
Tell the story. You got up. What time you got up? Tell the viewers, man.
I got up about some minutes to 4.
To 4.
Yeah, I went to
On May 11.
Yeah, I went to the polling station. And when I went to the polling station, the police then was right there and they even said, big man, where you guys so early? God, the people ain't come here. I said, well, I want to do this thing quick and done.
Okay.
You understand? And I get upstairs and I was one of the first people. And I said, well, okay, I tell my son them, I said, well, this is Sayal, not me,
Right.
because I never voted before. Okay. And I tell them, I say, well, anything that's better for y'all, I'm happy for y'all.
Right. 2 years later.
But then 2 years later,
What's
I
that?
realized, man, that this is a game. Because the same people I used to see every Friday keeping meeting and in the streets, I ain't seeing nobody ain't coming. And people in the streets hungry. They're not coming in. You got to come in the streets if you want to know your country. If you want to know what's going on in your country, you got to get in the streets. If you don't get in the streets, you're doing nothing. You can't see nobody.
But suppose somebody says to you, Carlos, that 2 years is not enough time to give the government to really bring about the plans and all the bells and whistles that they promised. How do you answer that?
Well, I am saying at least they could have done more for the youths. The youths is very important. Give them a break. I feel you could take some of them and even nurture them. Because it's young brain. Give them a
But
break.
the concept is that, and I heard President Granger articulate the concept. The concept the president has is the young people need to wait their turn. That you have a lot of stalwarts, particularly in the PNC, who have been in the trenches for years. Now the party is in power. You have to reward these old stalwarts. And that is why the president is making sure that he uses these older people. And maybe if the government wins back in 2020, then you might see a shift into younger people. But you can't have the PNC people in the trenches for all these years and then now you want to give young people. How do you answer something like that?
No, I'm saying you won't give the young people in totality, but I feel you could nurture a few of them. Put them in a position and give them a break and let them come with fresh ideas. Because we're not going back, we're going forward.
Okay.
So I feel that you should give the young people a break.
All right. We can talk back to you. Let me get to Dr. Bandhu. Dr. Bandhu, you have entered 2 major political races over the years, and your party has not ever won a seat. But yet you again here in the trenches, investing your time and your resources. What drives you, Dr. Bandhu? What's the underlying reason for you to keep at this game so consistently?
For me, it's not a game, Pastor. For me, it's about people.
All right.
Right? The URP, yes, indeed, in 1992, we entered the election. We got 4% of the vote at that time. But the whole purpose of the URP, when they came here in 1992, is not to win an election. Was to bring democracy to Guyana, where we didn't have democracy. It was post-dictatorship.
All right.
Right? That was our main objective in coming to Guyana.
In 1992?
In 1992.
Okay.
We consider ourselves one. Because our idea, winning is not going and sit in parliament or sit on the presidency. That's not winning.
All right.
Winning is when you have an idea and you can able to put that idea to work. If you can't even get the idea to work, and I get the idea to work, it means both of us won.
Okay.
Right?
And so go ahead.
The URP won because its idea was to remove the dictatorship government. Also, the two-term presidency that they passed in parliament, it was the URP's idea.
Okay.
Right? Beside that, the URP is the one who had played a major role in bringing President Jimmy Carter to this country for the first time in history in Guyana in 1992.
Okay.
So we consider ourselves one. 2015 again.
Okay.
We consider ourselves one. Why? Because our idea, it was to remove the PPP.
Okay.
And install a democratic government. But people could not have seen what we were trying to tell them.
Okay.
Because we are telling them we do want a change, but we do not want an exchange. And if you vote for the APNU, you are voting for an exchange. The same mentality, again, because we see them in action 28 years.
Okay.
Right?
I guess, and that is what this is what Carlos is saying, that even though we have a different party, because you were telling me off the air, Carlos, that the PPP did not provide jobs.
Right.
The PPP did not provide any kind of hope for your children.
Right.
And so when the coalition came out with a manifesto and with the rhetoric that they would provide hope, you bought into it.
Right.
And so like Dr. Vishnu is now saying, what we got is not a change, it's just an exchange.
Right. Because you're doing nothing for them. And if you're doing nothing for them and they're hungry, what would we expect? What would we expect?
So
10,000 children come out of school and you're giving them, you got no jobs to them. What happened? They're saying that they got jobs but they won't work. There's nonsense. That is nonsense.
We have a problem with crime, Carlos, and I know, like I said, you're in the rough and tumble.
Right.
I like how you say you can move from Hatfield Street right to the Seawalls without ever coming on the main road because you know all the back streets.
Right.
We have a crime problem that is epidemic, endemic. It's almost systematic in Guyana right now. Do you think that the high levels of unemployment is contributing to that?
I am saying this because they got a lot of people out there hungry.
Hungry?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're hungry, you will want to eat by all means. And a hungry man, you wouldn't stipulate and say, well, I ain't going to take from here, and you're going to take from wherever you could get to eat. So you understand?
You're saying the crime problem is as a result of people not being able to feed themselves?
That's what I'm saying. If you take the vendors off the road and you move in the vendors some vending, and most of the people that is on the streets is third class people. It's not even second class people.
Right.
It's people who want a daily bread to survive. They got kids to go to school and so on. How would they survive? They got no jobs. All right, we can go there and hustle and sell something. When the constable come now, we got to start running. Because they're going to take everything. They might even lock you up. Or we got to go and pay now to get it back.
But the mayor is clear, and of course it's funny that we are tying a lot of the problems in the country, even after local government elections, it's still pointing right back to the central government because, of course, the local government is being controlled by central government. Yes. But the mayor is saying that we can't, that for 23 years you had lawlessness, that the vendors on the streets and so on, it was a lawless practice. And so we have to take them off the streets, even if it causes them to be further impoverished. What's your take on the notion that the vending on the street is lawlessness?
But all over the place you go, you see vending. You go Suriname, you see vending. You go in Trinidad, I see people vending. I go in Curacao, I got a place named the Free Zone, people vending. People vend all over the world. And if you can't provide jobs to everybody, they're going to take something and to make a little money. You call it a little hustle. That it could go to get food for them and the children eat. Or if you're going to impede the progress of that, and the children home hungry, and one of the son big, and you say, don't watch him more than the brother and sisters hungry. He said, and he hungry, he said, me enable this, in come to the house. Anything goes after them.
Well, of course, there's some validity to what you're saying, because we know that the coalition came in and they doubled their salary from 500,000 to about 800,000. And when we asked why, they said it's because they didn't want the ministers to thief.
Yeah.
So
you're telling me that the ministers is thief, we paying them not to thief? The ministers supposed to be people with social dignity and decorum is not thieves. How are you going to pay a man not to thief? So you telling me that worse than the ministers thief?
like I hit a spot with you there.
Yes, because it
But you know that that's what they said, that
yes,
you're paying the ministers because you don't want them to
thief,
thief, right?
Good. All right, but what I'm saying, the ministers them going in there to thief, or the ministers going in to look at the people?
Well, they're being paid now not to thief.
So if they didn't get paid, those on thief. Well, then if they getting paid not to thief, what happening to the people outside? Well, pay them not to thief, huh? Let them eat, get them food. If you take them off from Mary's Mall, you take them off of the market, you take them off of if they got run, they can't, what happen? How they gonna eat?
All right, Doc, let me let you jump in here, because you've been going around the country and you've been meeting, you've been traveling the country extensively. What are some of the things that you're hearing directly and anecdotally about the situation, especially with the new coalition in place?
All over this country, everyone. I never met one person yet who are very much satisfied with this government. Everywhere. I travel from Crabwood Creek right down to the Pomeroon River, going to Kakwani, going to all these areas. I travel widely and I meet with people. I'm having meetings with people, and they all are so disappointed because many of them vote for the coalition. And what the coalition, as Mr. Carlos is saying, what the coalition had promised, there's no way near to it. Look, for instance, everything that this government have been doing is what they attack the other administration, the other government in doing. Everything what they attack the government, what the previous government, they are doing it and do it worst right now in what's happening in Guyana. Look, for instance, they've been talking about declaring their personal assets and so forth.
That's something else, yeah.
They have been asking the last administration to declare their assets, right? After the election, the URP wrote President Granger, and it was published in the newspaper.
Okay.
We are asking them to declare their assets, and everyone in Parliament to declare their assets. The President must declare his asset, the Prime Minister must declare his asset, all ministers and all top bracket government officers should declare their asset. Because after 2-3 years, you wouldn't find they coming out of government and you see they have property in New York, in Florida, bank account here, in India, all over the place they have things. Big things. Most of the people who are involved in our government, most of them, ministers and so, check their background. See what they had before they went in government. And after a few years, they come out as billionaires. Right? And you're not getting that pay to be a billionaire.
The president said, and I remember the president said that he will institute a code of conduct for the ministers. That all ministers and public servants will have a code of conduct. Of course, we don't have that code of conduct as yet. It is still, I guess the argument is that it's still being constructed. But what you're saying is that in the meantime, these guys are amassing wealth that would not have been, that they can't account for. Is that what you say?
Definitely.
2 years you still code of conduct.
What are you saying?
After the time,
Yeah.
so when code of conduct, it is almost 2 years and there's no code of conduct. So when it going to be?
It didn't even start yet.
Yeah.
Where would
2
it
years
be?
Finished.
Right?
Just now, some people, they might even be around when it's election time because they're not little children. And we don't know what will happen tomorrow.
One,
might go on.
one of the big problem too, they've been hitting on the constitution. That as soon as they get in power, they will change the constitution. Today you hear nothing but constitution. Nobody says anything about constitution because it benefits them.
You will not, and we talked a little about that, and we're going to keep talking about it. You're not going to have constitutional reform. The purveyors of the constitution now is the PNC. The constitution was constructed particularly under the PNC reign by Mr. Bonham and those back in the day. So why would the PNC change or amend the constitution when it was written by the hero of the PNC? It benefits them. And it benefits. In fact, the constitution